Hi, everyone. This is a modeled response for one of the texts. So I'm basically going to go over your answers and help you think through the rhetoric that's going on in this passage. So the first thing we're going to do is talk briefly about the context that Mr. Rogers was speaking to. We're then going to read what he said, and then we're going to go over the questions that you have on this Edge Elastic assignment. So this speech was given in 1969, and Congress at the time wanted to cut a lot of the funding for public television. And Mr. Rogers, along with some other shows like Sesame Street, were really being innovative in the way they were providing education to children through the medium of television. And Mr. Rogers spoke to Congress to really encourage them to continue funding public television and to maybe even increase the funding. And in this speech, he's specifically talking to someone named Senator Pastore, who was really antagonistic towards public television and really wanted to cut funding. So Mr. Rogers is speaking to a pretty hostile audience. I mean, politics I think were a little kinder then than now, so not super hostile, but still not like a supportive audience. So this is what Mr. Rogers said. I'd just like to talk about it if it's all right. My first children's program was on WQED 15 years ago, and its budget was $30. Now, with the help of the Sears Roebuck Foundation and National Education Television, as well as all of the affiliated stations, each station pays to show our program. It's a unique kind of funding in educational television. With this help, now our program has a budget of $6,000. It may sound like quite a difference, but $6,000 pays for less than 2 minutes of cartoons. 2 minutes of animated, what I sometimes say, bombardment. I'm very much concerned, as I know you are, about what's being delivered to our children in this country. And I've worked in the field of child development for 6 years now, trying to understand the inner needs of children. We deal with such things as the inner drama of childhood. We don't have to bop someone over the head to make drama on the screen. We deal with such things as getting a haircut or the feelings about brothers and sisters and the kind of anger that arises in simple family situations, and we speak to it constructively. We made 100 programs for ENN, the Eastern Education Network, and then when the money ran out, people in Boston and Pittsburgh and Chicago all came to the fore and said we've got to have more of this neighborhood expression of care. And this is what I give. I give an expression of care every day to each child to help him realize that he is unique. I end the program by saying, "You've made this day a special day by just being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you, just the way you are." And I feel that if we in public television can only make it clear that feelings are mentionable and manageable, we will have done a great service for mental health. I think that it's much more dramatic that two men could be working out their feelings of anger, much more dramatic than showing something of gunfire. I'm constantly concerned about what our children are seeing, and for 15 years I've tried in this country and Canada to present what I feel is a meaningful expression of care. Okay. And I think this is a really interesting excerpt in that he really uses ethos here when we talk about our rhetorical appeals. He builds his own credibility. I have this experience. We've done it with a limited budget. We're doing so much more than what cartoons do. Okay. He also talks about his expertise in child development. And he uses the examples he shows to try to show that he understands what children need and developmentally. They don't need cartoons. They don't need bombardment. They don't need violence. What they need is to learn how to have a haircut, how to get along with your brothers and sisters and all their feelings, what to do when you're angry, what to do about your mental health. Okay. So, and I think what he was doing was really, really powerful. So let's think about what he's doing here and think about the answers that you have to these questions. So you have them on Edge Elastic. But you're going to put these in the different boxes. So your first thing that I want you to really talk about here is who the audience is. So here, he's talking to the Senate, but he's also really making this personal by addressing Senator Pastore throughout this speech. But his audience is the Senate. But there's also a larger rhetorical context here that he has a message for the news media. He has a message for the American people. And this message is greater than that, just smaller context there. So there's kind of multiple audiences going on here that he's trying to address. How does Mr. Rogers use who he is as a person to be persuasive here? Well, he talks about his own experience in creating these programs. He emphasizes how long he's been doing this. And he also just comes across as knowledgeable about child development and confident in what he does as an entertainer for TV. And he comes across as really educational for children. Okay, so that's really ethos. He's using who he is as a person here. And then how does Mr. Rogers adapt his message to his audience? What word choices is he making? Okay. So he's speaking to a fairly educated adult audience. Okay. And you're going to get better at this as you see his other speeches and how he's different. Just like in the Michelle Obama examples we looked at, she addressed her language, right? So here's what he does. He contrasts his show with cartoons and emphasizes how beneficial the show is for kids. He's building a logical argument there, logos. And he's using a pretty sophisticated logical argument because he's speaking to a pretty sophisticated audience, senators. Hopefully, maybe at one point they were, maybe hopefully they still are. Okay. But he also uses really sophisticated, educated language. Okay. He uses bombardment, very much concerned, unique, constructively. And he uses this phrase expression of care. He almost uses like these psychologist terms to talk about child development, not only to give himself like ethos, but it also just connects with his educated audience who are expecting him to be equally educated in order to get this funding. Okay, you're going to do the next two speeches and rhetorical situations on your own, but you're going to use my modeled example here to think about how you're going to talk about the next speeches too. Thank you.